called Our Graceful Heritage Continues in cooperation with Dr. Grace Vuoto. You can check her out and her article, her latest one, right now at the Edmund Burke Institute, edmundburkeinstitute.org, or go to relevantradio.com. Keyword Drew, you'll find the news link there. You'll also find a link for her that'll bring you over. The article is The Vanguard of American Conservatism, Catholic, Blacks, and Latinos. Doctor, let's go to the phones. We'll take some calls. We'll go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin first. Chris, good afternoon.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. It's an interesting topic, but I was kind of lost at the beginning, Drew, when you started out the conversation by saying that Black and Latino voters tend to vote Democratic because they like receiving handouts.
Well, I didn't say it that way, but they do vote overwhelmingly Democratic, and there's no doubt about it. And if you look,
Drew, can I interrupt you for a second?
Go ahead, Chris.
You did say it that way.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll recap what I said. I said they do vote Democratic, and one of the reasons, if you take a look at the black community in certain sections, many of these people are procreating. They're having children just to get the government handouts, to get the subsidies that come with having larger families. It's a fact, Chris. Not every single one. I'm not going to say 100%, but there are a majority.
I don't want to argue with you on the air because I want to be respectful, but I suggest you go back and listen to your own words. You used the word handout, and you said they vote that way because many. And
I did. I said they like big government, and I'll stand by that. I believe that.
I would suggest you also look up the definition of the word many, because the insinuation is you're talking about a vast majority of people. And I have to say, my Black and Latino friends, should they have been listening to your show, would have been incredibly offended as hardworking, decent people who don't engage in any of the behaviors.
Well, Chris, I've got many friends that are Latino and Black, and of course, I am not broad-brushing every single Latino or African-American in this country, and I hope most of my audience is intelligent enough to understand that. What I am saying, there are portions of the population in this country, in those communities, that certainly want to take advantage of the government. And stay on the line. We'll talk about it. Doctor, I want your perspective on it, too. You follow this pretty closely.
I want to jump in and just say that I think the idea here is that historically Democrats have peddled the notion that big government serves best the needs of Hispanics and of Blacks, and conservatives have said, no, big government isn't the solution for you. You don't need big government. So really that's the area of debate. That's the fault line. And I think by and large, the majority of Blacks have accepted the idea that they need big government. That's why they vote overwhelmingly for the Democratic Party. Hispanics, on the other hand, have been a little bit more shrewd with the way that they use their votes. They tend to be swing voters. More or less, they're voting more for Democrats by and large than Republicans, and they vote more for liberals than for conservatives. And we're seeing a slow change in that. But I want to say this.
But let me let Chris respond to that. Chris, I'm sensing you don't agree with that.
I don't put I can't wrap myself around the minds of all voters. I don't agree that the majority of any people vote with one thing in mind. I mean, to say a Democratic voter or a Republican voter is, that they're all the same is painting with too broad of a brush. I guess I just wanted to give you a chance to apologize, Drew. I guarantee I'm not the only person out here that was offended by what you said. But
well, Chris, let me do this for you.
I also respect your opinion, and
Chris, let me do this for you.
At that.
All right, I certainly want to apologize to anyone who was offended by those comments. I had no intention of offending individuals, but I do stand by what I said earlier. I'm not, as I said, painting 100% of the population, but there are without question portions of the Democratic Party that do pander to African Americans and others, and the big government's a very important part of that.
Yeah, and I have to say, Drew, to your defense, I mean, you will have many of those voters who will be unabashedly, they will admit to that unabashedly, and they will say, we need the government. I mean, essentially, Blacks bought the line that they need government assistance in some way, shape, or form, whether it's legal or economical, to, quote-unquote, level the playing field. And conservatives have said, you don't need that, and you're being led astray. And now we have conservative Black candidates like Tim Scott, like Alan West, who are telling their fellow Blacks, Don't accept that mindset. That mindset is enslaving you and is actually holding you back.
All right. Hey, Chris, thank you for calling me on it. I do appreciate it. Again,
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it. I appreciate the respectful conversation, and thanks for the time.
Yeah, and I, no means, I don't want to offend anyone out there, but again, I stand by, Doctor, this other aspect. I do know that there are certain, and look, Caucasians are just as guilty of this. There's certain people within certain communities that take advantage of the government, and I know many who are having children just because they know that they're going to get a bigger check at the end of every month, and they're taking advantage of the welfare programs in this country, and I think that's wrong. Let me go to the phones. Riggs in Illinois. Hi, you're on the air.
Hey, Drew, how are you, brother?
Good, sir.
I'm going to tell you right now, the guy who called before you, no disrespect, he was wrong. I'm Mexican, okay? My family is from Mexico, and they came here in 1962. And I come from a long line of people, family who came here to the United States, who, guess what, my friend, on the other line, they did come over here to try to make a living, but they believe in big government. They believe that the government is going to support them. And so it's okay to have more kids. Guess what, my friend? The black community and the Latino community is struggling. And this is the Latino community that is all about family. Our society is teaching the Latinos to contracept. And these are Latinos who are supposedly Catholic. I sat in the library before Barack Obama became president, and I tried to convince a young lady who was Mexican that what she was doing was throwing her vote away. Yes, I dare say that because it was a vote thrown away. So let me tell you again, I am not offended. Drew, you hit the nail right on the head, brother.
All right. Hey, Riggs, thank you, sir. I do appreciate your call and your support. Folks, I got to take a short pause. When we come back, our conversation will continue. Dr. Grace is my guest today. Calls from far south as Austin and far west as California. We'll be back. More calls and more great conversation right after this. All right, about 4 before the hour, my guest today, Dr. Grace from the Edmund Burke Institute. Let me go to Austin, Texas, real quick. Darnell, thanks for waiting. You're on the air.
Oh, hi, Drew. I tell you, Christian, I'm born and raised in New Orleans and taught in the public schools there for 34 years, and I can tell you what you said is absolutely right. And one of the reasons is we should say, lack of sexual morality. The church has not preached that these young girls need to have a family, a husband, before you start having babies.
That's a great point.
That is one of the things. And how many times have you heard priests preach on that? That's not anything that's really on the pulpit. And when I moved to Austin, I don't find the same thing in the Latino community. They have big families, but they have big families in the context of marriage.
Well, Darnell, let me let Dr. Grace pick up on that, because you bring up a really, really great point. She's saying, hey, a lot of blacks are having babies born out of wedlock. Let's talk about the ideological concept that they have, or the precept that they hold, Doctor, in terms of the way they vote, and this concept as well in terms of the church maybe addressing this issue in a more passionate way.
Yeah, first of all, Drew, I want to just reinforce the caller's point. That is an excellent point. The statistics there are 70% of black children do not have a father in the home. 70%. I want to draw the audience's attention to a previous article I wrote in Reflections magazine called Black Conservative Surge. That was last month. And I point out that if you look at the statistics regarding what's going on with black Americans in terms of 1 out of every 2 pregnancies ending in abortion, 70% of black children not having a father in the home, these are statistics that bespeak truly the destruction of a population. There's just no other way around that. And it is black leaders who have a great responsibility to address that. And one of the problems is they need to foster really strong moral, traditional morality, and get away from the ideology of dependency and victimology.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it on this point. Latinos and blacks are the future of the Catholic Church in this country. I also really believe that. We need to be reaching out to them because they will help transform this country. I'll be back.